You being along for the ride. Executive producer Vlad will be along in a little bit. He is traveling. And as you know, these days, there are no safe bets in traveling. There are no safe bets when it comes to getting on the road or flying through the air. And he had, if you listened to the show last night, he had to fly from Miami, 2 layovers, and then a 2-hour drive from Omaha to Iowa, somewhere in Iowa for a wedding. Poor guy. We got a lot to do over the next 3 hours, as I always like to tell you guys. We'll get into what's going on with the NFL, obviously week 1. I can't wait to talk about some of these games this week. We'll do some fantasy analysis. Jamie Eisenberg's going to stop by from CBSSports.com. We'll do that coming up in about 20 minutes here on the show. My buddy Scott Seidenberg is stopping by the program as well. He does a terrific job on the sports betting aspect of things. Scott Seidenberg will join us coming up about an hour and a half from now, hour and 20 minutes from now. We'll talk to him in the 8 p.m. Pacific hour and get some thoughts with him on some of the best bets of the week. And I think it's so hard to bet on the NFL. I think it's so challenging to bet on the NFL in week 1 because there's just zero predictability. There's nothing to lean back on. Yeah, you can look at history and what do teams do typically in week 1 and things like that, but it's very difficult to try and get a gauge on how you bet week 1. So he'll help us out with that. But stick around. We're going to get into the Lamar Jackson saga as we continue on the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Do me a favor. And I haven't said this to anybody else, but I'm going to. After 10, you don't have to give me one. Yeah, because I'm okay with people in my ear, but I should have told the other guys this too. After 10, I don't need anything. No worries. No, I get it. It's all good. Some people don't know how to time out into a break, so I get it. Hello to our video stream people. Hi, streamers. Good to see you guys tonight. See, if you watch on the video stream, you get to have me talk to you during the break, which is kind of cool. And I'm always up for doing that. Do. Yeah, Vlad's probably not going to be on till maybe late first hour, early second hour, because he is traveling. Ed Matthews, I see you watching. How is UFC just becoming more and more like the WWE? That's what I want to know. What a mess. Changing cards the day before a fight. I mean, come on. Dana White, do better. Talk about having built-in excuses for why you lose a fight. Yeesh. Ay. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does on this Friday night. 12 minutes past the hour. Coming up in about 12 more minutes. 15 minutes, actually. Something like that. I don't know. How about, let's just say, coming up at 10:25 p.m. Eastern. It's Jamie Eisenberg from CBSSports.com. Boy, what a collapse for Francis Tiafoe in the U.S. Open men's semifinal tonight. Won the first set 7-6, looked brilliant. Got dusted in the second set 6-3, dusted in the third set 6-1, now down a break in the fourth set 2-love to Carlos Alcaraz, who looks like he might be on his way to his first Grand Slam final. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And look, I mean, all the credit in the world to Carlos Alcaraz, who played that 5-hour-plus match the other night. And now here he is on the verge of a Grand Slam final if he can close it out here in the fourth set. You never know. Crazy things happen all the time in tennis. We'll keep an eye on it. It's actually on over my left shoulder. So I am fascinated by this Lamar Jackson situation because it, in some ways, it mirrors so similarly the position the Ravens were in basically a decade ago with Joe Flacco, with Flacco deciding to bet on himself. Team and Flacco couldn't get a contract ironed out before the start of a season where the Ravens would go on to win a Super Bowl, and Flacco was amazing in that Super Bowl. And he wound up getting a huge payday as a result. And here we are, basically a decade later, and you ask yourself, have the Ravens learned anything? Or maybe they simply have made an evaluation and what they perceive to be a fair contract offer to Lamar Jackson, and it's Jackson that's being unrealistic. I mean, look, I'm sorry. I judge you based on the postseason. The guy's 1-2 in the postseason. He's not an accurate passer. And I'm not convinced you can win with him in the postseason. So if you are the Ravens, you have to make a decision. Can we win with this guy in the playoffs? Maybe he's just one of those guys that's good enough to get you through the regular season. And there's been plenty of guys in the history of this league that make tons of money. Not the insane money that, Deshaun Watson just got, or the Brady Rodgers money, or the Mahomes money. There's plenty of guys that make good livings as quarterbacks in the NFL, play for a long time, and just simply are not built for winning in the postseason. Their games just never get over that hump. Now, the Ravens have made an offer. We do not know what that offer is. And Lamar Jackson, who is, again, acting as his own agent, which is fascinating in this whole thing. It brings another layer that, again, the Joe Flacco situation didn't have. Because Joe Flacco was represented by my friend, who I've known for a zillion years, Joe Linta. And Linta was the one negotiating that deal, not Joe Flacco. But in this case, Lamar Jackson says, I don't want to pay the 15% or the 10% or whatever the agent's going to take, so I'm going to negotiate the deal myself, which I said earlier in the week on this show. The attorney that represents himself, or the client that represents himself, has a fool for a client. That's essentially what you have here with Lamar Jackson. And I'm sorry, I'm calling him a fool for representing himself. It's hard to believe that if he didn't have an agent, they wouldn't have found a way to get this deal done. Is it possible it still could have ended up in this situation? Absolutely. It's conceivable. I have to acknowledge that possibility. But now here's where I think it gets interesting. The Ravens expect him and this team to take that next step. He's going to get the 5th-year option. He's going to get $23 million. So I don't want to hear anybody crying about, he's not getting what he should be getting this year. Richard Sherman, I'll get to you later. Sherman. I'll get to him later. But here's where it gets interesting, because Lamar Jackson is not the most accurate passer. He can run and do some things with his legs. But the injury possibilities, and don't get me wrong, Joe Flacco's no big scrambler, and he got hurt, and that's how he wound up being supplanted by Lamar Jackson in the first place. But here is where him being this versatile guy that can do it with his legs sort of quarterback could also be problematic for him. And how does it impact the way he plays? There's no way you can convince me that a guy in a contract year, when Lamar Jackson's running for a first down, is there the possibility that instead of taking that extra hit, he's not sliding a little earlier, not running himself out of bounds? Because if he gets hurt, forget it. The contract's gone. The big deal's gone. This isn't going to be like the Dak Prescott situation in Dallas where he still gets a big deal. If he gets hurt and misses out on the season, he's going to be missing out on a huge contract. Now, look, there's other possibilities. They could franchise him. They could franchise him for up to a couple of years. But again, having that weighing on your mind every week, being the one that was in those rooms for the negotiations, not your agent, but you. How does it impact you on the field if you're Lamar Jackson? And I think it's one of the most fascinating storylines to watch for this entire season. How will it impact him? What do you think? 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. What will happen for Lamar Jackson in this contract year? There could be a middle ground. Maybe he has a great year. Again, the team stumbles in the playoffs. He gets a good deal, but not the great deal that he wants. It's not a binary choice. There's a lot of different ways this thing could work out. But Joe Flacco was cerebral. And that's, again, there's differences here in the games of Flacco and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, obviously more versatile, can run all over the field. Joe Flacco is a cannon for an arm, but he was mostly a statue. In the season where he won the Super Bowl, in that contract year, you never felt that he forced the issue. You never felt that way. Will that be the case with Lamar Jackson? Here's what I think happens. I think Jackson will have a good year, not a great year. I think the Ravens will come up short in terms of postseason aspirations again. Maybe they'll make the playoffs. I think I had them in to make the playoffs in our picks the other night. They make the playoffs. I think we said that on Wednesday night. But they ultimately don't reach where they want to. And either he gets tagged or he's going to have to take a deal that's less than what he thinks he's worth. That's how I think it ultimately winds up. Again, what do you think? 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. All right, I'm looking forward to getting into the fantasy conversation. We'll come back to the Lamar Jackson stuff later in the show. But I want to get into some fantasy football. I am a huge DFS guy. My days of doing season-long fantasy, they're done. DFS ruined that for me. The opportunity to just start anew every week, I'll take that. Do my drafts, go get my guys on Sunday mornings, perfect. Right up until that kickoff, perfect. What should you be looking at? What are some of the big questions, some of the best plays for your DFS selections on Sunday? We'll get into it with Jamie Eisenberg, CBSSports.com, fantasy football analyst. He joins us coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I'm Jason Page, a Friday night edition of The Cash In with me on Sports Map Radio. Hold on one second, Jamie. Getting you all set up here. Get you my board. All right, Jamie, you hear me? Jamie, you there?
Yep.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Just living the dream, sir. Living the dream. Oh, boy. Yeah, we'll have you on 10 to 12 minutes max and then get you on your way. Where are you based?
South Florida.
Oh, nice. Cool.
How about you?
Palm Springs, California.
Oh, nice.
Yes, except for 3 months a year when it's hotter than hell.
Yeah.
Yes, I got that pulled up. All right, stand by. I'll be with you in a minute.
Okay.
Thanks. Austin, you hear everything good on your end, right? Good. Rolling along on this Friday night. Hope you're enjoying it wherever you are. Whether you're listening to us on Sports Map Radio, the app, Sports Map Radio app, watching us, whatever it may be. They're on serve 2-1 in the fourth set, by the way. Alcaraz and Tiafoe will keep you posted on that. But right now, happy to bring in Jamie Eisenberg. CBSSports.com does a great job on fantasy football. I am a big DFS guy, and of course, we're right around the corner from a big DFS Sunday when it comes to the NFL. Jamie, we're ready for this Sunday in the NFL. Let me start with Aaron Rodgers because it looks like he's going to be without Alan Lazard, who we're going to get to coming up a little later on in the show. And obviously this cast of receivers that he's throwing to this year is not the one he was throwing to last year in some regard, obviously with the loss of Devontae Adams. Give me some thoughts on Rodgers, who you know is going to cost a lot. Is he going to be worth that price?
I think he could be a contrarian play. First off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I think he could be a contrarian play because I think a lot of people are going to say no Devontae Adams, no Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and now no Alan Lazard. Can you trust him against what should be a much improved Vikings defense, knowing that his top options, as you mentioned, are Sammy Watkins, who feels like he's been on every team in the NFL. Randall Cobb, who feels like he's been playing since they had leather helmets. And then the rookies of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and can they do enough in the passing game to make plays? Now the counter to that would be that the running back's going to be heavily involved and probably very successful because that's kind of been what they've done when Adams hasn't played. So me personally, I'd probably avoid Rodgers, but if you want to go with the contrarian approach, I think that's a decent pivot play, just knowing that he is still the two-time MVP, and I'm sure wants to tell everybody, relax, I'm still going to be pretty good even though I don't have my guys.
Are you paying up? And I know there is the idea that these guys are worth, paying up for this week when I was doing my homework for our segment. Are you of the mindset that it is worth spending up this week, even if you got to kind of figure out where to trim some money on the back end for Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes?
The first week is always interesting because you got the cheaper options of the guys that they didn't expect to have the preseason performance. Damian Pierce being one of those guys, for example, especially with Shaquille Leonard being out for the Colts, their star linebacker. So you could get somebody like that that's a little bit cheaper. If you wanted to go with, let's say, like a Raheem Mostert, who I think could have some success against the Patriots, he's a good cheap option. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is somebody that I like, and I have a one lineup. I'm stacking Mahomes and MVS just with the chance of the type of player that he is. So I think it just depends on how you want to build your roster. But I think the easy plays are the quarterbacks that the track record of what they typically do in the openers and some of the situations that they're dealing with. You mentioned too, Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Obviously, the matchup for Lamar Jackson should be fantastic. The narrative of him not getting the contract, I'm sure that's going to probably play itself out on the field. And then for Mahomes, similar to Aaron Rodgers, except he does have his guys, but he just doesn't have the same guys. So trying to prove that he can still be successful without Tyreek Hill, with how things sort of unfolded last year, I think that you could see a big path to Mahomes, an easy path to Mahomes having a big game.
Talking with Jamie Eisenberg, CBSSports.com, does a great job on fantasy football. Getting some thoughts with him on week 1. If you go big, running back with Jonathan Taylor, who's obviously going to cost a lot, but he's going to give you a lot. Justin Jefferson, who I heard Mike Florio the other day suggest could actually be the first wide receiver to win an MVP, which I think is kind of crazy, but hey, all right, whatever. If you go into that direction and you got to go sort of one of these mid-tier quarterbacks, is Jalen Hurts a guy that you like?
Love Jalen Hurts. Especially what we saw in the preseason game. We came out and I think it was 6 for 6 or 8 for 8. Passing in the time they was on the field, and it was just kind of okay. Here we go, and he did that without AJ Brown. And so you don't bring in AJ Brown and do all the things that they've I think tried to do this offseason in terms of getting Jalen Hurts better. To not necessarily be a little bit more balanced, but I think slanted more in the past as opposed to last year where they were so run dominant. So the weapons are as good, I think, as anybody in the league. When you have tight end of Dallas Goedert and the second-year receiver of Devontae Smith with what A.J. Brown can do. And the nice thing about Jalen Hurts is he's going to use his legs. And so this Detroit defense will be better. I don't think they will stop this Philadelphia offense, great offensive line. And so Jalen Hurts is a great, mid-tier quarterback. Trey Lance is another one for me. I know the George Kittle injury is
I was going to ask you. That was where I was going next was Trey Lance. The Kittle injury, how do you sort of gauge him in week 1?
It's never really a great situation when you take one of the best players, if not the best player, for a team off the field. But I think with somebody like Lance, it doesn't really matter that much because what he's going to do, again, similar to Jalen Hurts, with his legs is going to matter more so, I think, than what he does throwing the ball. So it's almost like I don't want to say he's a running back because he's a very good quarterback. But, these guys that have the chance to run for 50-plus yards, and that's what he averaged in the 3 main appearances that he had last year. So if he gets you 40, 50 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and ironically enough, these two teams met last year, Jimmy Garoppolo, fleet of foot that he is, scored 2 rushing touchdowns against Chicago. So maybe Trey Lance has a similar type of situation, but I think he's going to throw downfield. And I think Brandon Ayuk, I think Deebo Samuel, the fact that he still has those 2 guys, I think will sort of overcome the loss of Kittle. So I have no problem using Trey Lance. For redraft leagues, he's our starter of the week on CBSSports.com.
A thought in terms of those mid-tier guys in the running game, again, if you're not going to go big with Jonathan Taylor and spend all the money there, there's so many different ways to mix and match lineups. Aaron Jones is a guy. Najee Harris is a possibility going against a Cincinnati team that wasn't great against the run last year. And his price isn't great because, his price is a little lower because of the injury they suffered, the Liz Frank injury. Of these mid-tier running backs, who are you looking at?
You mentioned Aaron Jones. I actually like his backfield teammate in A.J. Dillon. I think you just look at how this team's going to operate. Even if Allen Lazard was healthy, when you rank the skill players in Green Bay, Aaron Jones is 1. I think A.J. Dillon is 2. And you're going to see them used a lot. I could see a situation where we get like what we had in 2017 with the Saints, where there's 2 guys that are great for fantasy. That year it was Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I think we see the same thing with Jones. And with Dillon and what we saw from them in the last time they played Minnesota last year, Dillon had 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones was involved in the passing game. So I think you'll see a lot of touches and production for those 2 guys. But Dillon obviously a little bit cheaper. The situation in Washington, is kind of Unfortunate how it's unfolded, but it's worked out in the favor of Antonio Gibson with the attempted robbery where Brian Robinson Jr. got shot. And so the fact that he's out for 4 games, Gibson now going to be the lead guy. It's not going to be as easy a matchup as it was last year. Jacksonville's defense is going to be much better, but I still think that the amount of time he's going to touch the ball, the work that he'll get in the passing game, Antonio Gibson is somebody that I would look at for this week as well. And in that same game, Travis Etienne. I think a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, James Robinson's playing." Could be something that you want to avoid. I'd go the opposite direction. I think we'll see Etienne at least in the first week. They're trying to work Robinson back in. I don't think we see the usual workload for James Robinson. Etienne in the passing game could be special, and so I like his opportunities to have some success this week.
Who are you staying away from at all costs?
Well, they're not playing in the main slate, but for redraft leagues, Ezekiel Elliott makes me really nervous this week. I wasn't really a big fan of his coming into the season, especially once they lost Tyron Smith. So he's somebody that I would look to avoid if you can. I'm trying to think of the main slate guys. The Bears really make me nervous, across the board. I think you look at David Montgomery and you kind of know what you're getting. Not going to be heavily involved in the passing game most likely. San Francisco's defense is really good. Justin Fields, he was good at times last year, and we'll see how things go for him this year. But in this week one matchup against San Francisco, don't really love it. I would avoid all the Patriots. I think it's just going to be a disaster for them until they sort of figure things out with Matt Patricia calling plays. You have both running backs potentially cannibalizing each other a little bit with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. And this Dolphins defense is really good. The receivers are kind of messy at this point. So that's a unit that I would probably, a team that I would probably try to avoid just because I think the Dolphins defense is surprise people.
How does Matt Ryan fare this year with the change, obviously, to Indianapolis, but going to a team that is so run heavy with Jonathan Taylor? How do you view him? Is it a week-to-week situation? Is it matchup dependent? Overall, how do you look at Matt Ryan and his value as we go through the season?
Yeah, I think it's going to surprise people. The thing about them being run heavy, Frank Reich, I don't think wants to necessarily fall into that trap because I don't think you can necessarily win that way in the NFL. Certainly when you see what happened on Thursday night with a guy like Josh Allen and how we've seen the Chiefs operate and Aaron Rodgers operate, I think they realized they needed to be a little bit better at the quarterback spot, which is why they made the move to get rid of Carson Wentz and find Matt Ryan. Now, clearly at the point of his career that he's in, he's not going to be a difference maker, so the run game will support him. But, it's why you hear, and a guy that I love a lot, Nyheim Hines, being talked about a little bit more. You see the upside for what Michael Pittman can be. Alec Pierce is somebody that I think you got to keep an eye on. For those people that want to beat the waiver wire in redraft leagues, you go take a look at him just to see he could have a good game against Houston for sure. So he's not going to be, a top 10 fantasy guy. He's not going to be in the MVP conversation unless just things dramatically change. But I think anytime you have a good quarterback, a smart quarterback behind a great offensive line, I think that's what the Colts have with a run game to support him. He's going to have some pretty good weeks. And so he'll be one of those guys that's in and out of your lineup. And as long as the pricing's right, he'll be a good DFS play when the matchup's good too.
Great job, as always, from our guy, Jamie Eisenberg. A privilege to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on with us in our first week of the program. Hopefully we get to do it again as we go through the season. All the best this weekend.
I appreciate it. Same to you.
Jamie Eisenberg giving us some time on the show. Great job with him. And, look, at the end of the day, I just think in the case of Matt Ryan, and I agree with what Jamie was saying, he kind of validated what I had going on in the back of my head, which is that I don't think Frank Reich wants to be in a situation where Jonathan Taylor's got to run the ball that much. I mean, running backs can burn out fast, and you've got a guy who's capable of Matt Ryan. I almost wondered, though, would Matt Ryan become more of a game manager as a result? That's kind of one of the things I was looking at. Zach Ertz, I think, is a good one for this weekend too. I like Hunter Henry. There's some good guys out there this weekend. I think there's some value in week one. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Finding that value. Well, I'll be looking for him on Sunday morning. Thanks again to Jamie Eisenberg for hanging out with us. As we continue with this hour of the program, the Trey Lance situation in San Francisco. We'll get into that. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you watching, my man. The man, Scott Kaplan. Ed Matthews, thanks for checking us out. Tiafo trying to put up a fight. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Friday night. So Alcaraz and Tiafo are on serve in the fourth set. 4-3 Alcaraz and Tiafo, I believe, about to serve. Trailing 2-1 in that U.S. Open semifinal. I'd be curious what the live odds are on that. Maybe see if I can pull it up here real quick. Because I would have to imagine right now Tiafo would be a huge live betting underdog. And if anybody knows me, they know I love my live betting underdogs. We found that out the hard way last night, didn't we? Yankees trail 4-1 as they go to the bottom of the eighth in New York, with the Yankees trying to hold off the Rays in the AL East. Who would have thought we'd ever be saying that? Speaking of live lines right now, trailing 4-1 going to the bottom of the eighth, the Yankees are plus 1,400. Yeesh. It's always tempting when you see that kind of a number, right? Because they're the Yankees, and they have all these come-from-behind wins this year. It's always tempting. I mentioned Francis Tiafo and being a live dog right now, trailing 2-1 on serve in the fourth set. Tiafo at plus 460 right now. Alcaraz minus 750 in the live betting as we look at it here in the fourth set. So see how that continues to shake down. We'll keep an eye on all of it as we roll through this first hour of the program. Next hour, Scott Seidenberg will stop by. My old buddy from our NBC Sports Radio days. Most recently, he worked with VEASAN the Vegas Sports and Information Network. And we'll get some thoughts with him on the start of this NFL season, who he likes, who he doesn't like when it comes to betting the games on Sunday. Look forward to talk to Scott Seidenberg coming up in the next hour of the program. We'll do that at 11:25. 11:25? Yeah, 11:25 p.m. Eastern. We'll get some thoughts with him. Richard Sherman's weighing in on the Lamar Jackson situation. We'll tell you what he's saying. I'll give you the 4 college football games I'm looking forward to this weekend. We'll do that in the next hour. 4 college football games that I think are very much worth watching, no matter where you are. Going into this weekend, 2 of the storylines that we just talked about with Jamie Eisenberg from CBSSports.com, and I think they're very much worth watching, is this trade. I've just got this sense of doom when it comes to Trey Lance this weekend, and frankly for the season. Just watching the way that this entire saga with Jimmy Garoppolo played out, and you just look for the signs, right? They don't make him the captain. You're going to be our starting quarterback this year, but we don't quite feel good enough to make you the captain. Now he's without George Kittle in week 1. He's got Jimmy Garoppolo staring over his shoulder after they bring him in just before the start of the season. I mean, here you are. You're the guy. Trey Lance is the guy. And now you find out, you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be here. The guy you supplanted at the end, after last season was all said and done and the 49ers came up just short of a Super Bowl. The guy that they were going to get rid of to bring you in and let you be the starting quarterback. You're the future. So much talent, so much ability. And then they say, yeah, but we're so confident we're going to bring back the guy that you replaced, and he's going to watch you all year. Oh, that's a comfortable feeling. I mean, it's like it's akin to getting a divorce, getting a new girlfriend, and your ex-wife saying, yeah, you know what? I'll just be in the guest house out back. How are you going to feel? You got divorced. It wasn't working out. And then she says, yeah, but you know what? I'm going to go stay in the guest house. I might do the pop-in every now and then. Who likes the pop-in? It's a good Seinfeld episode, by the way. Yeah, the pop-in's a good thing. Perhaps that's how Trey Lance is going to be feeling throughout this season. How long before Jimmy Garoppolo does the pop-in? The 49ers schedule, you never know. What if they start off slow? So this Trey Lance thing just has an ominous feel to me. George Kittle's got a groin injury, a grade 2 groin strain. The good news is they're playing the Bears. And I know people are excited to see what Justin Fields can do in his second year and what will his growth look like and throwing the ball and passing accuracy. And they've made a whole bunch of changes to that team in terms of management and obviously the head coach and all these different things. But George Kittle's a top 3 tight end in this league over the last few years. He's a guy who's going to catch for 1,000 yards. And now you're going to be without him in your first game as the starting quarterback. The future is now, and no George Kittle. And I mean, look, think what you want of Trey Lance. He has not played a lot of football. I mean, think about that. I mean, he's completely unproven on the professional level. And we're talking about a 49ers team that last year was a step away from the Super Bowl. And you might not have Kittle for the first couple of games. Still got Debo. Still got Ayuk. But where's he going to go with those throws that were going to go to George Kittle? I'll be interested to see. I haven't talked about the Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to say situation because it's not a situation per se. I mean, look, they let Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams goes to the Raiders, and you start looking at what the rest of that receiving core looks like, as Jamie Eisenberg pointed out. Randall Cobb, who's been in the league since the day of leather helmets, it feels like. I thought that was a pretty good line, by the way. By the way, Austin, that Jamie Eisenberg interview, we're going to put that in the podcast for folks. So tomorrow, if you miss the show tomorrow morning, you'll be able to check out the podcast. And we throw 3 or 4 of the best segments in the show up on the podcast. Who decides that? Sometimes me. But if Kittle is out of action for a while, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in San Francisco. Anyway, back to Green Bay. The Randall Cobb situation, not the Randall Cobb situation, but the Allen Lazard situation takes an already flimsy receiving core, and Aaron Rodgers could try to say all the right things, but he himself was critical of this receiving core at one point during this preseason. And I would just kill to be a fly on the wall to see what the relationship is like between Aaron Rodgers and that organization these days. Everybody's trying to do the right thing, and he got his money, and I just think there's so much acrimony there with him just kind of holding out and waiting, deciding whether he was going to play or not. The last couple of years have not been the greatest to him from a PR standpoint. We all know about the immunized situation that we went through with Aaron Rodgers. Not being vaccinated. I still don't think he is. And looking in on that situation, I would just kill to be able to be a fly on the wall for what it's like there. And keep in mind, and this is why you can't go crazy about what happens in week 1. A year and just a few days ago, or a few days from now, New Orleans beat Green Bay in the season opener 38-3 in New Orleans. 38-3. I mean, it was an absolute mollywhopping. And Rodgers was terrible in that game. And again, there was the overreactions on Monday. 15 of 28, 133 yards, 2 interceptions. He was terrible. And we know the Packers still made a run pretty deep into the postseason. So again, you can't panic based on what you see in week 1. I know even fans of the Rams right now are going, oh my God, we lost 31-10, the banner raising, and then we get destroyed by a Buffalo team that could very well win a Super Bowl this year. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? It's just week 1. Oh, the elbow and Matt Stafford. It's just week 1. It is a 17-game season. I don't want to say it's a marathon like we do in baseball, but it's a long season. It's a long season. And you've got to be willing to kind of wait it out for at least a few weeks. This isn't college football. This isn't like college football where, one loss like Utah had in the swamp against Florida, and that's it. Unless Utah wins out, which they're capable of doing, but unless they win out, what's the Utah season going to be? It's done in week 1? By the way, we'll get into the best college football games of the week coming up in the second hour of the show. But I'm most interested to see. And I will do the same for the NFL games in the third hour. We'll also do Paige's Picks, our first installment of that tonight on the show. Who do I like? I give you 4 games every Friday. And look, we talked about this last night on the show. I do not claim to be some grand wizard when it comes to picking NFL games with the spread and all that stuff. I'm not claiming to be that guy. I do all right. Some seasons better than others. But I'm not out there like hawking my picks and doing videos with zillions of views. It's just not me. I wouldn't want to be responsible for where somebody puts their money. I'll give you my picks, I'll give you my logic, and then you decide what to do. Simple as that. What's the most intriguing matchup for you for week 1 of the NFL season? If you've got a thought on it, give us a call. 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. The most intriguing matchup for you in week 1 of the NFL season. There's also another way to reach me, and it's my preferred method of choice, and that is Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter at any point throughout the show, at the back page. If you're looking for me on Twitter, at the back page. Send me a tweet. First of all, follow me on Twitter. Send me a tweet, and then guess what? If I like something you write, I like something you say, I might even give you something. Because we're going to be giving stuff away on this show. We're just getting the prize closet replenished. We're going to be giving away some pretty cool prizes on this show. Tiafoe and Alcaraz are still on serve. Tiafoe serving 4-5 in the fourth set. Down 2-1 in that U.S. Open semifinal. When we return, we'll let you know what happened in that game where Tiafoe is serving, and I think they're at deuce. See if the Yankees can rally at home against the Rays as well. Otherwise, that AL East lead, it's only going to get tighter. I'm Jason Page. Glad you're hanging out with us on the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. If this thing gets to a fifth set, Tiafoe and Alcaraz, very interesting. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Thank you for being with us. On serve 5-5 in the fourth set of that Alcaraz-Tiafoe match, U.S. Open semifinal. And right now, Tiafoe going off at plus 550 in the live betting. Alcaraz at minus 950. The Yankees, well, it doesn't look good. Bottom of the ninth, trailing 4-1 against the Rays on Derek Jeter night. They had this big thing for Jeter because he went to the Hall of Fame and honored the captain at the stadium. The last Yankee captain was Derek Jeter, as a matter of fact. Will Aaron Judge be the next after he gets $40 million a year? After the season he's having, he's going to get it. Getting $40 million a year somewhere. Just better not be Boston. It'll be the reverse Babe Ruth. If the Yankees let him go to, I can't even get it out of my mouth. That's how sick it makes me. I can't even fathom the idea of Aaron Judge in a Red Sox uniform. Maybe San Francisco? Maybe the Giants blow him out of the water with an offer? It's always a possibility. Scott Seidenberg will join us in the next hour of the show. We'll talk about some of the sports betting landscape in week one with him. Looking forward to catching up with my old colleague from our NBC Sports days. Get some thoughts on week one betting lines, where the trends are going. I'll also give you some picks for some college games I like. We'll get into some of that. It's going to be fun. Stick around. We got a lot more to do. Another hour of the Cash In right around the corner on the Sports Map Radio Network. Stay with us. I got thrown off. Where'd the music go? Okay, so it wasn't anything on my end. I heard the music and then it was gone. How come I'm hearing all the sports grid stuff? Usually I never hear that. Oh, I got you. All right. Keep me posted. Aaron Judge just hit a home run, didn't he? Single. How you doing over there? Yay. Okay. All right, rolling along on this Friday night. I am Jason Page. Good to have you with us. The Sports Map Radio Network, the Sports Map Radio app, and obviously a big night in sports with the U.S. Open semifinal, getting ready for college football this weekend, which we'll get into later on in this hour with the 4 games I am most excited about. We'll do the same with the NFL in the final hour. I keep turning my head to watch this Alcaraz-Tiafoe U.S. Open semifinal. So they're in the 4th set. Alcaraz leads 2-1. Tiafoe is up in the tiebreak 3-1. So they could be headed to a 5th set. We'll wait and see. Yankees trailing the Rays 4-2. Big game in the AL East tonight in the bottom of the 9th. We'll let you know what happens there when there is a update to give or a final to give. Scott Seidenberg from pregame.com, his new digs. We'll talk with Scott coming up in just a couple of minutes, get some thoughts with him. We'll do that about 25 minutes past the hour. The games he likes most in week 1, we'll run through some of them and see how he feels about it. Formerly with VSiN. So looking forward to talking with Scott, my former colleague over at NBC Sports Radio. So the Yankees have the tying run at the plate now trailing 4-2 in the bottom of the ninth. So you knew they were going to make it interesting at the stadium. Didn't know it would get to a situation where they'd get the tying run up in the ninth. But here are the Yankees. And by the way, if you're just absolutely insane and want to give away money, you can do it right now. The Yankees are plus 2,000 on the money line with Gleyber Torres at the plate and Aaron Judge at first, with Torres representing the tying run. You can bet right up until the last out is made. And by golly, I wouldn't be shocked if Gleyber Torres was the guy that made that last out. It's the way it's gone for the Yankees. We talked about Lamar Jackson in the first hour and his contract situation, which is at an impasse. And he's going to play the year under his fifth-year option at $23 million, poor guy. Richard Sherman had some comments on it. I'll delve into those as we continue on the Cash In on a Friday on the Sports Map Radio Network. All right. No worries, man. On this Friday, September the 9th, 2022. What, about 36 hours from the start of the rest of the NFL season? Oh, I was going crazy today trying to figure out where am I going to watch the games because I don't have Sunday ticket. So I was like, should I cave? Buy Sunday ticket? It's not cheap. Maybe just get the Reds. Do you just go and get the Red Zone channel? What do you do? I mean, I live across. Here's the thing. As I explained on the show last night, and of course you may not have been listening, I live across the street from a casino that has a sports book without the betting element because it's not legal in California yet. It will be soon. Hopefully by the Super Bowl, we might have a chance to bet on the Super Bowl. But I live literally across the street. I'm not joking when I say I live across the street from a casino in Palm Springs, California. And there's a sports book with a zillion TVs. And if I want to, I could just mooch off of the casino and go watch the games there every Sunday. Do I want to do that? Or do I want to watch it in the comfort of our condo? I don't know. Not sure. I've still got time. We're up against the wire here on it, but I still got some time. 12 minutes from now, our friend Scott Seidenberg will join us with pregame.com. It's RJ Bell's outfit. Long time purveyor of picks. And we'll talk with Scott, formerly of VEASAN and a colleague of mine over at NBC Sports Radio, and we'll get his thoughts on week one. Who's he like? Who doesn't he like? And I just think it's so risky betting week one. I think it's such a challenge. I mean, who would have had the Saints blowing the doors off of the Packers last year in week one? And the oldest adage in the book for me, and I say this all the time. I say this all the time when it comes to the NFL. Teams don't know they suck early on. Teams don't know how bad they are, with very few exceptions. Teams don't know how bad they are until 3 or 4 weeks in. Sometimes later than that, it just takes a while to catch up. Sometimes you can ride momentum and get a good win in the first week or two. But I'm telling you now, I think it's very tricky to go and bet big in week one. Me personally. I'm sure Scott will disagree with that, and he'll tell me why coming up when he joins us about 10 minutes from now on the program. Richard Sherman's talking. Oh, what a shock. And water is wet. Richard Sherman, the former All-Pro corner, well, he's got some pretty heavy thoughts as it relates to Lamar Jackson's contract situation. And he went to Twitter to tell everybody about it. Now, we talked about it in the first hour of the show. Jackson is acting as his own agent, which is idiotic in my opinion. Give up the 10 or 15% and give up the headaches of having to deal with that contract situation. And the team decided on Friday, we've made our best and final offer. And now we'll wait and see how the season plays out. And who knows? Much like Joe Flacco, it may work out for Lamar Jackson. I have made my prediction on it. I don't think it will work out for Lamar Jackson because I don't think he is as good as he thinks he is. Maybe I'll be wrong. And if I am, I'll be the first one to stand up and admit it. But I do not think you're winning Super Bowls with Lamar Jackson as your starting quarterback. He is simply not an accurate enough passer. But they have an all-world defense, and we've seen what happens with teams that have an all-world defense. You can win Super Bowls with them, even if your quarterback play isn't as good as it needs to be. And Lamar Jackson has certainly proven he can win you games in the regular season, but can he win them in the postseason? I am still highly skeptical. But that wasn't stopping Richard Sherman. No. On Friday, he took to Twitter and said, quote, I hate the Lamar Jackson situation. He has outplayed his contract and deserves the new money. There is a fully guaranteed precedent out there, and he is simply looking to capitalize on that. But the NFL, unlike the NBA, will come together to end that now. SMH, which for you people that don't know, means shaking my head. Well, just because there's a precedent for a fully guaranteed deal doesn't mean that the Ravens have to assume that Lamar Jackson is the player that Lamar Jackson thinks he is and give him that fully guaranteed contract. And who knows? Maybe Richard Sherman knows something we don't about the contract situation. Maybe he's friends with Lamar Jackson. I have no idea. But he did offer some public advice to Jackson. He thinks that after this season, if the Ravens use the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson next year in the offseason, that he should wait until after training camp to sign the franchise tag. So basically, Richard Sherman is saying Lamar Jackson should hold the Ravens hostage throughout the offseason. Boy, that's great. That's a real team guy there. Yeah, that's a way to endear yourself to your teammates. I mean, man, Richard Sherman is, let me say this. Richard Sherman is not a dumb guy. There's some dumb jocks. Let's be honest. We've all seen them in the course of the years of watching professional sports. There's some dumb jocks out there. I've never viewed Richard Sherman as one of those guys. But that statement, that reeks of selfishness. Reeks of it. Sherman tweeted, I hope he waits until after training camp to sign the tag next season. Make the team sit in uncertainty as long as possible, and then take your time getting ready to play the only power play he has, and he should use it. No, you know what the power play is? Go out there and prove him wrong this season. That's what Joe Flacco did. They didn't want to give Flacco all that money. But after he went and won a Super Bowl, they had to give him that money and then some. So that isn't the only play. You know what the only play is, Richard Sherman? Play better. Prove them wrong. Because then if they don't, and if they want to use the franchise tag, you could sit out, you can make them trade it, whatever. Or they let you go, which I don't think they would ever do because they're going to want to get something for him, sign and trade, whatever. But it isn't an option of, just simply sit out training camp and wait until you absolutely have to get ready to play and then play. Because that's not fair to your teammates. The way to put the stranglehold on the organization, be more accurate throwing the football this year. How's that? Be more accurate. It's not surprising, though. It's not surprising that it got to this point. You could see it coming. But for Richard Sherman to sit there and say, sit it out. Frankly, it says more about Richard Sherman than it would about Lamar Jackson or anybody else in that situation. You're welcome to give us your thoughts. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. How will it all play out for Lamar Jackson? Let us know what you think. You could also hit me up on Twitter, @TheBackPage. If you are not following me on Twitter, let me give you some advice. Do it. Because if you follow me and leave me comments, I might just give you something. I've already given away one box of NFL trading cards in honor of the start of the National Football League season. We did that on Wednesday. Panini draft picks, blaster boxes. We gave that away on Wednesday. I still got another. If you follow me on Twitter, leave me a comment. Might just have something to send your way. On Twitter, @TheBackPage, if you're looking for me there. Scott Seidenberg from pregame.com. He does a great job talking about the sports betting side of the business. Longtime friend of mine. Love the guy. He will join us. And actually, he'll be joining us in both video and audio. So for those of you watching on the stream, you'll get to see the silky smooth Scott Seidenberg. All of that as we continue. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Alcaraz up a break, huh? All right, I got to call Scott. Don't do it. You will regret it. For you.
How much are you sweating out Tiafo Alcaraz right now, Jason?
I'm actually not, because sports betting isn't legal in California, so I am not sweating out the Alcaraz Tiafo match. Beyond the fact that I'd just like to see Tiafo win.
It would be amazing, you get an American going this deep in the U.S. Open, and it hasn't happened in a really, really long time. So, yeah, the eyes of the nation on this Friday evening are upon Queens.
Yeah, they are, and not for nothing. He's been so good, throughout this tournament, and you knew as soon as the hype machine, the pressure on this kid at 24, he's never been in this position before. You can't be shocked if he's just a bundle of nerves, and Alcaraz is just a beast. I mean, this guy can really play.
Yeah, he's like the next in line here, and I think he's going to be the guy that takes us into this next generation, because it's been the big three for what 20 years now,
Yeah.
15 years now, and by big three we're obviously talking about Nadal and Djokovic and Federer, and now it's more about just Nadal and Djokovic, and really if you look back at the history of every Grand Slam for the last, I don't know, 15 somewhat years, it's only been 4 or 5 players out of all of the tournaments besides those 3 that have won. And Andy Murray's one of those guys who has multiple wins. Other than that, it's just a random winner here or there. And it's going to be the same here in the U.S. Open, unless it's Alcaraz, who, like I said, could be this bridge into the next generation.
Yeah, he could be. And Tiafoe's there, and we know how good Sinner is. There's a lot of good young talent. My question is that I wonder, and I know I want to talk to you about the NFL, but whenever I start talking to you about sports stuff, I can't stop myself. But here's the thing: I wonder: are people going to watch these new young guns? That's the question. Are people going to tune in for it? It doesn't help when the U.S. Open has the best match of the tournament, arguably the best match of the last 5 years in tennis, at 3 o'clock in the morning where nobody could see the ending of it. You know, I wonder how many people are going to tune in and watch the new young players when the Djokovic's and Nadal's and Federer's had such a stranglehold on the game for so long.
It's tough because tennis is one of those sports, and it's like golf now. And maybe golf's changing a little bit because of gambling being more prevalent in golf, right? With the daily fantasy and with, people just betting outrights and things like that. Tennis is not there yet, although there is a niche market for betting tennis. But the reason why I compare tennis and golf, it's because it's really the only sports where you root for the favorites, right? In every other sport, we want the dogs to win. It's fun to take the points in a football game. It's fun to root for the Cinderella story in March Madness. But in tennis and golf, for a while, it was all about the popular names. You want Djokovic to win. You want Nadal to win. You wanted Tiger Woods to win. Tiger has become an underdog since, but you get the point. It's very rare that you root for anybody besides the big name favorites in a sport like tennis. So I'm curious to see how people react once this kind of younger generation takes over.
How do you feel about the Vikings this weekend? I saw what the Packers did in Week 1 last year, where they laid an egg in New Orleans against the Saints. No Alan Lazard. The Vikings play the Packers tough traditionally. How do you feel? How would you feel about if I said I like the money line on the Vikings? Would you try to dissuade me from it?
No, I love it. It's my favorite teaser leg of the week because it falls into the traditional Wong teaser by getting north of the key numbers of 3 and 7. So if you have the Vikings at +1.5, a 6-point teaser, you get them at +7.5. It's my favorite teaser leg of the week, but I love the Vikings to win this game outright. And you mentioned it last season, how slow the Packers started out in Week 1. That game, by the way, was in Jacksonville. Remember, there was a hurricane.
That's right.
And they couldn't play the game in New Orleans. So the Saints had everything going against them.
They did.
In that spot, yet it was the Packers that laid an egg. Why? Well, Aaron Rodgers had the whole will he, won't he of the offseason. Is he going to retire and host Jeopardy, or is he going to continue to play? And then he doesn't play at all in the preseason. And what have we seen this year? He doesn't play at all in the preseason. And I understand that teams are no longer doing that, but we just saw Matthew Stafford and the Rams lay an absolute egg last night. Stafford didn't play at all in the preseason, and the reason why it cost him, in my opinion, not because of him being rusty, but besides Cooper Kupp, he threw the ball to Tyler Higbee. Allen Robinson, if you watch the All-22, it's almost embarrassing because he's open on every route. And Matthew Stafford targeted him twice. And one of those targets came on the final play of the game when he just threw it up in the end zone. We're talking about one target for your number 2 wide receiver. Now, why does that make sense? Well, he didn't really work with him in the offseason. He had the elbow issue, he didn't throw a lot, and he didn't play in the preseason. What is Aaron Rodgers dealing with now leading up to this season? A completely new wide receiving core. There have been complaints about the wide receivers. We all know Devontae Adams is gone, Marcus Valdes-Scantling is gone, and Allen Lazard, his new number 1 wide receiver, is doubtful for this game. It's not out of the realm to have You have to have serious concerns. That's the bottom line. You have to have concerns about the Packers and their pass catchers, and the Vikings at home have arguably the best home field advantage in the NFL. There's a lot to like about this Vikings team. Kevin O'Connell coming over from the Rams, where he led that offense featuring Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, expected to get that boost. And obviously the offense is going to look better without Mike Zimmer in place. Let me tell you something, Jason. I got the Vikings to win the NFC North at plus 250. I have them winning this game. I have them going over their 9.5 win total. I am all about the Minnesota Vikings.
Wow, you're buying in heavily on Minnesota, and I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy. I do like them this week, but I'm not. I've just never been a Kirk Cousins guy. Let me ask you about the Titans and the Giants. How is that line only minus 5.5?
Because the Giants are going to cover.
Really?
Yeah. And
I don't think so.
Let me preface this by saying, if you practice the whole flip the spread mentality, which, let's think about this. If it's 5.5 in Tennessee, would the spread really be a pick'em or Giants favored by 1 in MetLife Stadium? The answer is no. The Giants would be an underdog at home. We know that. So maybe 5.5 doesn't make sense if you think about it in those terms. But let's just think about what the Titans have dealt with, right? This team has taken a huge hit this offseason. Harold Landry, their best pass rusher, is now done for the season. They lose A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. And with Derrick Henry coming back from his injury, there has to be some workload concerns, especially early on in the season. Malik Willis is putting pressure on Ryan Tannehill. I think we're going to see a down year from the Tennessee Titans, and there's a lot to love about this Giants team. They're healthy. They're optimistic. Brian Daboll comes over, obviously, from Buffalo, where they have had success, at least offensively, against Tennessee, maybe not defensively. But Brian Daboll's offense did put up 31 points against them last season. I am so curious to see what a healthy Saquon looks like, what Daniel Jones looks like motivated here without his fifth-year option being picked up. And with the Titans having a down year, I wouldn't be surprised if this one's a field goal game.
Really? I see. That's one I disagree with you on. We're gonna have to revisit that. I'll be texting you on Sunday.
I will give you a crazy stat.
Okay.
All right. And again, trends are trends. You can take them for what it's
sure.
worth. But road underdogs that did not make the playoffs the previous season.
Here we go.
73, 46, and 4 against the spread in week 1.
This is the kind of stuff I was talking about on the show last night. I said, I will never be the guy that goes that deep into the numbers. And there are people like you that can do that, and guys that do this stuff for a living that can go into, on a rainy day where the roof is half open. And
what's the reasoning for it, though? You're a team that didn't make the playoffs last season, so you're motivated, obviously, going into this season to kind of prove people wrong. Because you didn't make the playoffs last season, you're obviously going to be an underdog in week 1 because people are devaluing you, when in reality, when you go into week 1 of the season, everybody starts with a clean slate.
Can I hold you over? Because I got a couple more I want to hit you with, and I got cheated because I talked too much tennis.
It's 8:30 here in Vegas. We're good.
Speaking of tennis, I'll update you on that as well. I'm Jason Page. Stick around. More with me and Scott Seidenberg coming up next on the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Stay with us. I knew that was going to happen. That was going to run low on time.
Yeah. Hey, I switched them. Hey, Chang, how you doing?
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
How does the mic sounds okay?
It's better now. Same? It was low early
because it wasn't selected at the start of the segment, and then I had to go into the settings and rechange.
Yeah. Hey, audio wise, Austin, he's okay, right? Okay. Thanks. Oh, did he just get broken back again? Yeah. Damn it.
Where are you? You're in Palm Desert?
Palm Springs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get up to Vegas and do some shows from there because we have an affiliate there. I'm not even sure which one, but I'm on one of the affiliates there, yeah.
Sweet.
There's a million stations, sports stations in Vegas, so being on an affiliate there isn't necessarily an accomplishment. But, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be back on the air, I have to say. I Continuing our conversation with Scott Seidenberg. I don't normally hold people over a segment, but I spent and wasted so much time talking about tennis with Scott in the first segment that we had him on because I just suck at this. And somebody listened the other night. I won't say who, but a fellow professional in the business listened to the show the other night, and he was like, "I'm listening for the first time," and he was like, "I heard you talk about tennis, live golf, and baseball." And I'm like, "Oh God, you listened at the wrong time, man." It's like, come on. So, you know, I'm still getting my legs back under me after about 6 years away from doing this. So Scott's with pregame.com, longtime friend of mine and somebody whose opinion on sports betting I value greatly, except when he picks against my pick, which I think the Giants are going to get slaughtered. I think the future is bright. You know, I like some of the things they did in the draft. And of course, Daniel Jones is the big key to where all this goes long term, and whether or not they have to go a different direction with the quarterback position. But I just don't like him this week. I love Mike Vrabel. I love what he's done with that Titans team. And yeah, I know they've got some injury issues, but we'll see what happens. How about the Cowboys? We saw him play the Buccaneers last year. We've seen Tom Brady off for, leave the team for 11 or 12 days. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this year. His play on the field, no Rob Gronkowski, at least at the start of the season. Who knows? Maybe they can coax him out of retirement. Give me some thoughts on that Buccaneers-Cowboys matchup. Buccaneers at minus 136, Cowboys at plus 116, and the Buccaneers a 2.5-point favorite.
So I like the under in this matchup. We've seen it go down a point already, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we get to Sunday night, it goes down even further. You have to look at the offensive line concerns, Jason, for both of these teams. First off, the Bucs are absolutely decimated on the offensive line. The Cowboys have their offensive line issues as well, and what does that mean? Well, it means that they're probably not going to have a lot of time in the passing game. That means that they're not going to open up a lot of holes in the running game. I think this winds up being a lower scoring game than people think, where the defenses just live in the backfield. And we know how good the Tampa Bay Bucs defense is, so the concerns on the Cowboys offensive line are warranted. And for the Cowboys, their defensive front, not going to be as great as it was last year, but the injuries to the Bucs offensive line, just it's not just replacing three players. You mentioned Rob Gronkowski. You have to include the tight end in the offensive line as well, because as much as they line him up on the outside and he goes out for passes, Rob Gronkowski's an A-plus blocker. And so you're losing an additional piece of this offensive line. And Brady being away from the team, it's something that we've never seen before in the history of Tom Brady. A scheduled absence from the team. And I don't care why. Okay, I'm not going to get into why. But Brady, always football first. First guy in the facility, last guy to leave. We have never seen him take personal time away from the game. And in week one, it has to have an impact. So I'm not, look, the Bucs could still wind up having a tremendous season. Now I'm down on their win total, and we've seen that go down as well. But I think here in week one, they could still win this game. I lean Cowboys. The Cowboys would be my teaser second leg with that Vikings to push them up to 8.5. But the stronger play for me is the under.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. I think scoring will be down in that game as well. And I'm glad you mentioned the whole thing with him taking time off, because I worry about whether or not I've exaggerated the importance of what's happened with him in this offseason and then here in this preseason. I think it's going to be a fascinating storyline. And again, one of the things I've pointed out is we've never seen leaks in the Tom Brady personal life to this degree before. He's always been like Derek Jeter. He was always very good at keeping his personal life very much out of the headlines. And the fact that this leaked out tells you it's got to be far worse. To me, I would think it has to be far worse than we may even think it is.
He retired, Jason. I don't think enough people are talking about that. He retired and then unretired. And now he takes 11 days away in the most important time of his preparation for a season. It's okay to question Tom Brady now at this point.
Give me a game. Give me a game that you like that maybe is going against some of the trends.
Ooh, okay. Against the trends. So, like, the popular trends would be the division underdogs,
Sure.
right? Like, one of my favorite plays is the Steelers here. Steelers in week 1 is probably my favorite play. And it has to do with division home dogs. Division dogs in week 1 of the NFL season since 2014, 29-9-1 against the spread. And the Super Bowl loser since the year 2000, 4-18 against the spread in week 1 the following season. So, yes, there's a Super Bowl hangover, but it could also do with the fact that the line is possibly inflated with that team. So that's going with the trends. I love the Steelers. Going against the trends, I like the Miami Dolphins. And this line has gotten away from me. I like it at a field goal. I loved it at 2.5. At 3.5, I don't like it as much. But the Miami Dolphins, everyone's like, don't bet against Belichick. Don't bet against Belichick, right? He knows what he's doing. I have concerns about this Patriots team. With the play calling on offense, you got a defensive guy in Matt Patricia probably calling the plays. Joe Judge, if he's calling the plays, we saw how that worked with the Giants. This is the talent level on this team. This might be one of the weakest rosters we've seen from the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick. And Mac Jones was tremendous in year 1. Let's see how he does now with a full year of film out and defenses going up against him. And I think there's a lot to like about this Miami team. Yeah, people are down on Tua, but I think Hill's going to have a major impact. I think that to have the head coach there that has the Shanahan pedigree and the offense that he ran in San Francisco with Deebo Samuel, don't be surprised if Tyreek Hill becomes the Deebo Samuel this year for this Miami team.
Can I ask you for a favor? It's easy to get into, and you're so deep into this, living in the belly of the beast in Vegas and having worked with VSiN and now with pregame and really so immersed in the sports betting culture. Can I ask you for a favor? Because while I think there is so much to be learned in getting deep into the numbers, obviously the reason that sports betting is going to grow in huge numbers isn't necessarily the guy that's betting every day on tons of games every day. It's the casual sports bettor. Even women, the largest growing sector of sports betting in the country from year to year was women. And they're not betting monster numbers on these games. They're not betting huge amounts of money, but they're betting 20, 30, 50 bucks on a game and sitting down with their husband or their partner and watching the game. What is the best advice you can give for the casual bettor? In state, Kansas just legalized sports betting. So there's a whole new sector there. We're hurting Kansas. There's a whole new sector there. And these new states that are popping up every day with legalized sports betting. What's the best advice that Scott Seidenberg can give to the person who's just starting to see this pop up? They're going to see 1,000,001 ads on television telling them, hey, your first bet up to $1,000 is free. If you get it wrong, we're going to give it back to you. What's the best advice that Scott Seidenberg could give to somebody who's just getting into this and doing it casually, and then we'll kind of go from there?
Line shop. Utilize the amount of sites and options that you have in order to get the best number and the best price. If you are consistently getting the best number, your win-loss record does not matter as much. You can win less and still come out ahead if you're consistently getting the best number. You don't want to lay minus 120 when there's minus 110 out there. You don't want to lay 3.5 points when there's 3 points out there. So don't be confined to just one sports book. Utilize them all and look for the best opportunities, because it's called closing line value, CLV, and people might make fun of it, and good for them. But it's the most important thing when it comes to sports betting. If you can consistently get the best of the line, you will have long-term profit success.
That's a great suggestion. And even again for that casual bettor who's just sort of getting into it. Now take it the other way. people are seeing sports betting becoming legal, saying, "Hey, this is my shot. I'm gonna go after it. I got my bankroll. I'm ready to go." What's the advice you give that person?
Bankroll management. Only bet.
That sounds like poker too.
Yeah, only bet what you are comfortable betting. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Treat it like recreation. And for goodness sake, don't do parlays. If you want to do it, make sure it's a small amount. It's just, people like to call it pizza money. A good friend Patrick Everson here in Vegas calls it Chili's money. I like to call it Starbucks money. It's like, instead of going out and getting that cup of coffee, that iced tea lemonade, let's put a little on a parlay. Parlays are not supposed to be full unit wagers. Don't get sucked into the trap of every parlay that you see a sportsbook tweet out and say, this guy won $1 million. Congratulations. You know why they can tweet that out? Because they've already gained $1 million by the other people that have lost their parlays. So if you are going to do a parlay, just understand that it should really only be like 10% of your normal bet size, if that. Just be careful when it comes to those, because those are, lower proposition bets.
Where could people hear you now and listen to you and get your insights?
So I'm always on Twitter at Scott's On Air. It's SCOTTSONAIR. You can hear me every day alongside RJ Bell on Fox Sports Radio straight out of Vegas from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time, as well as RJ Bell's Dream Preview podcast, the college football podcast available as well on pregame.com. And all my picks and stuff available on pregame.com.
Good stuff. Scott, always appreciate it, my friend. Glad we got to catch up for a bit today. I'll be texting you on Sunday when Tennessee's on the verge of getting that cover.
Anytime, brother.
Thank you. Scott Seidenberg joining us here on the show. Man, it's good to talk to him. Love that guy. I worked with Scott going all the way back to our days in New York together, and then we worked with NBC Sports Radio together, and like I said, in an industry where you don't have a lot of true friends, Scott is somebody I like to call a true friend. He does a great job, and always happy to have him on. And even if he's going to plug his stuff, I'm okay with that, because he's good, and he's always somebody I can call on, and he'll give great insights on a lot of the sports betting stuff that you just can't get anywhere else. What's going on in the Tiafoe match? Is it over? He's down a break 5-3. He is serving, so 3-5 in the fifth set. He was able to force that fifth set with another tiebreaker in set number 4. So he's going to have to get a late break of Carlos Alcaraz if we're to see the Tiafoe dream run at the U.S. Open continue. So that's where it is right now. We got a lot to do in the final hour of the show. It's been a busy one already. I was supposed to do some college football picks in this hour. We'll hold that over and do it next hour. Not picks per se, but college football, the games that I really like that I'm looking forward to watching this weekend. Talk about some of the big matchups. We'll do that coming up in the next hour of the program. We'll also get into the 4 NFL games I think are the must-watches and that I'm most looking forward to coming up in the next hour of the show. We'll also have Paige's picks to round it out coming up about an hour from now as well, so you want to stick around for that. I'm Jason Paige. Glad you're hanging out with us on the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Match point. We continue on this Friday night. Lots to do in the next hour. It's over. I said it's over. Out at the U.S. Open semifinals, Frances Tiafoe falls in 5 sets, 6-3 in the 5th set. Carlos Alcaraz will go on. He'll take on Ruud in the men's final on Sunday. Women's final tomorrow. Number 1 and number 2 ranked players in the world in that one. But no Tiafoe in the final is certainly going to hurt. But I have to say, Alcaraz, I think, has captivated tennis fans around the world. He's one of those guys, I think, that transcends, country and rooting interests for certain people in certain countries. I think he's one of those guys that can really elevate the popularity of the game, going past the era of Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and Roger Federer. With 2 of those 3 really aging, and Djokovic having missed, so much time in the Grand Slams this year. It will be very interesting to see. Very interesting to see what happens on Sunday in that men's final. I mean, Alcaraz is on the verge of being the number 1 player in the world. Go and figure that out. He's 19 years old. We're talking about a guy that could be on the biggest stage for 15 years. Tennis needed this desperately. Tiafoe is going to be a big part of that future, I hope, as well. Another hour of the cash-in right around the corner on the Sports Map Radio Network. I'm Jason Page. Stay with us. Ooh, I just beat it. Just beat it. All right. I'll be back. Vlad's going to be on in the last hour. Oh, Dookie, did you? Don't do it! Don't do it! No, what are you doing? No! Don't do it! I'm so catchy. No! bet. Whew. Can you get ESPN on for me? What's the matter? Final hour of this Friday night extravaganza. We call it the cash in. Special thanks to Jamie Eisenberg for popping on in the first hour from CBSSports.com. My good buddy Scott Seidenberg from pregame.com, who joined us in the last hour. We actually held him over. I don't ever hold over guests, but I figured with the start of the NFL season, some good gambling talk, Scott was a guy I wanted to have on. So Scott was a guy we had on. And much appreciated for him joining us and giving us some time on a Friday night, because he lives in Vegas, and God knows on Friday night you can do just about anything you want in Las Vegas. Hey, I got some good news. Vladimir Lewis has arrived safely in Iowa. That is the best news we can have. He traveled from Miami to Iowa today. He had to take like 17 flights, a 2-hour drive. He might have been on a horse-drawn carriage at some point. That's just a rumor, though. I'm not sure if it's true. And lo and behold, Vladimir Lewis will be on with us in this hour. Yep. Our executive producer extraordinaire, Vladimir Lewis will be on with us in this hour of the program. And I see, my hunch is he didn't want me doing Paige's picks by myself. I'm sure he's got something to say. So my guess is Vlad is probably was waiting for the final hour just to jump in. But he's got to be exhausted after driving and flying all over the place. Anyway, in this hour of the show, I will give you the 4 NFL games I'm most looking forward to for this week. We'll do that coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll do the same for college as well. We'll do Paige's picks. All sorts of fun and frivolity. And we'll hear from Vlad as we continue with the Cash In. I'm Jason Page, wrapping up our first week on the Sports Map Radio Network. Stay with us. Yo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you hear me?
There he is.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, man. I made it.
You gotta be exhausted.
I'm fucking exhausted, bro. I didn't go to bed at all last night.
Really? You did one of those things. Yeah, I've gone through that same sort of situation where when I have to fly out at like 5 or 6 in the morning, it's like, what's the point? Especially if you're going to be flying around all day and all that stuff. I get it. "12 minutes past the hour. I am Jason Page. The Cash In. Getting set to put our final hour of our first week. We made it. And this guy made it. All the way from somewhere in the middle of bum whatever, Iowa, is executive producer, Vladimir Lewisant. See, you already got demoted. I was going to call you producer. Man, I can't even imagine how tired you must be. And you came on. I didn't think you were even going to make it for the show. And the fact that you got on for the final hour, I was shocked.
Oh, no, I was going to make it. I had to carry all this equipment with me, and I wasn't going to make it? You crazy? Like, literally, if I didn't have to carry this equipment, I might have been here quitting early. No, I'm just BSing. But it would have lessened the load that I had to carry. But yeah, I made it, man. Right after the show last night, stayed up, packed, took the first flight out of Fort Lauderdale, went to Charlotte, had a couple hours layover from Charlotte to Chicago, another couple hour layover, Chicago to Omaha, and I drove from Omaha to Iowa. Okeechobee.
Okeechobee? That's what it's called?
Yes. Okeechobee.
Never heard of Okeechobee.
Neither have I. I confuse it with Okeechobee because I live in South Florida and there's a place called Lake Okeechobee. But it's nice. Not many brothers, so I think
It feels like it feels like you could be in like the sequel to Get Out or something.
Maybe Out to Get, maybe I don't know, but but yeah, I'm here. I'm in Iowa for the next couple of days, celebrating the union of my cousin and his fiance, Jimmy and Amy. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right, good luck with that, man.
Yeah,
I flew into Omaha. I flew into Omaha once in my life, and it was luckily it was on a chartered flight. When I was doing
I like Omaha.
I was doing play-by-play for the Hartford Colonials in the UFL, and we were playing in Omaha at Rosenblatt Stadium against Jeff Garcia and the Omaha Nighthawks, and still to this day one of the greatest games I've ever called. Last second touchdown by Omaha. It was a touchdown pass from Garcia to Robert Ferguson.
Why does that name sound familiar?
He played for the Packers.
Yeah, number 87, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. It was one of the coolest environments I've ever been in. The place was packed, sold out Rosenblatt Stadium. It was their home opener. It sucked that we lost, but because I was the Hartford play-by-play guy, but it was fun. Good times. Good times. So in this hour of the show, I'll give you the 4 NFL games I'm most looking forward to. I'll give you that in a second. I'll give you the 4 college football games I'm most looking forward to. And then I will... Well, I think it's fair to ask. And we talked to Scott about it. I almost feel giving Paige's picks, I'm going to give them, and I've already made them. I've already written them down. I almost wonder how many caveats I have to throw in when I give Paige's picks, or how many disclaimers, because I don't want anybody losing money on my picks. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want anybody losing money on my picks. If you take my picks, you do so at your own peril. But I'll give them later on in the show. We got that coming up. All right, 4 NFL games I am most looking forward to this weekend. Here we go. Raiders and Chargers in the late window. That is one of the games that I have to tell you, I am looking forward to the most, because the Raiders are going to be a fascinating watch this year. Devontae Adams added into that mix. I mean, this is a good, good football team, and who doesn't want to see the rematch from last year's regular season finale? Lots changed for these teams if you kind of look at it. And, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler running the Raiders now. Josh McDaniels getting another shot as a head coach in this league. This is going to be a fun season for both of these teams. I think this is going to be one of the games to really kind of sink your teeth into if you've got one of those NFL packages where you can watch all the games. I think that's one of the games you're going to be most excited about.
It's real fun rivalry. Living out there in LA, there's gonna be a lot of Raider fans driving in or flying in from Vegas. I mean, there's so many Raider fans in the state of California already. So what you saw in Thursday night with the Bills Mafia coming to SoFi and pretty much making it a home game against the Rams, it's gonna happen with the Raiders and Chargers. I am you know what? If the Chargers win this game, it'll show me a lot, because J.C. Jackson's not playing in this game, and they signed him as the cornerback. So Devontae Adams should be able to have a big game.
Yeah. Let's
see. Let's really see. Let's see. This is a big game for both teams, especially. You know how I feel about the Chargers. I think Herbert's a great quarterback, but enough. Enough is enough. I need to see something too. Like the way you were talking about Lamar Jackson, and that's because you don't think he can throw the ball consistently. Well, Justin Herbert, I've seen you throw the ball consistently. I need you to win consistently now.
No, I agree. I think this is a prove it year for him. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. He's also not asking for $40 or $50 million a year right now either, though. There's
not yet.
Not yet, but there's a bit of a difference in that regard between the two. But I think this is a big kind of prove it year now. That we've seen how talented he is for Herbert to take that next step. 49ers and the Bears. Now, not because I think the Bears are going to be some special team, but, they're not going to have George Kittle. And Trey Lance isn't going to have that option in week 1. The Bears will be fired up for, a home game to start the season, starting over, new GM, new coach, Justin Fields' second year, obviously more confident, did some nice things in the preseason that, got some people, I don't want to say thrilled, but certainly excited about, what the future could be for him, and sort of in line with some of these versatile quarterbacks that can run it and throw it. And look, there's nowhere to go but up if you're the Bears at this point. And obviously for Trey Lance, what kind of protection is he going to have? He can run around with the football, and he may have to. You got Jake Brendel, only started a few games last year, or started a few games in 2018 in Miami. He's been in the league since 2016. What are you going to get out of him in this game? Aaron Banks barely played as a rookie. The Niners are, while there's a lot of expectations of Trey Lance, they didn't make him the team captain, which I think raised a lot of eyebrows. They brought back Jimmy Garoppolo, also raised a lot of eyebrows. It's not the greatest, like, fresh start, first game for a quarterback starting the first game of the season. It's just, it doesn't have that feel around it that you feel like it should have.
There's a lot going on with this situation.
Yeah.
And they try to clear it out to make him to make him be the clear choice. This is his team. But, and I said this when it happened, I'm like, wow, Jimmy G getting that shoulder surgery late wasn't a good move, because I'm like, how you going to move him? Like, what team is going to take a chance at him if they don't know how his shoulder is? And I know he's a veteran quarterback, and he could pick up any system, but still, you would like to have some continuity with your new starting quarterback, if he's going to a new team. And they didn't make the move, and I'm not like you about this. I mean, he's a second-year quarterback, so I'm not going crazy about him not being a captain. That's something you gotta earn. I know you're the face of the franchise, so you should automatically have that C, but I'm not one that believes that.
Chiefs and Cardinals, part of the late window on Sunday. And look, I mean, for obvious reasons, this game has a lot of star power. You look at the two quarterbacks. Kyler Murray getting the contract right around the start of training camp, and Patrick Mahomes, despite being a Super Bowl winner, coming into this season with still a chip on his shoulder, still with something to prove, hearing all the talk about how good the Bills are. Patrick Mahomes is going to want to come out there and make a statement in week 1 on the road in Arizona against the Cardinals. And this is gonna be a fun game, these two teams, and watching both of these guys run around in the backfield and make plays with their legs and arms and anything else they can get their hands on.
There's nearly $700 million on the field.
Can you imagine? You think about that.
Think about it.
It's a great point.
$700 million, or there's probably $700 million. Let's just say $700 million. There's $700 million behind center.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Cardinals bad, bro. I think this is a game. I think this is one of those where Andy Reid we're going to start the season in Arizona, and we want to end the season in Arizona. Give them one of those,
one of those pep talks,
motivational speech, and same thing with Mahomes. And I think Mahomes has a lot to prove to doubt the naysayers, because everybody was getting on him last season. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, his down season is most people's career years. So therefore, 90% of the quarterback's career years. So therefore, we need to ease up on Mahomes and the Chiefs. I have them going to the Super Bowl and winning it. I think they beat Arizona bad. You have no D-Hop. I don't know if Hollywood Brown's going to be available. And I don't know. I think Cardinals going to have a tough season this year.
I'll give you my fourth game when we come back on the other side. We'll also give you 4 college football games that I'm excited about for this weekend as well. One of them might surprise you. We'll get to that as we continue. On the Cash In, I'm Jason Page. Executive producer Vladimir Lewisan is with us here in the final hour. Lots more to do on the Sports Map Radio Network. What'd you say? Yeah. Yes, NFL. Yep. Yeah, and any sort of NFL music is cool. Yeah.
I'm back.
All right.
You and Jamie were good.
What'd you say?
I said the Jamie interview was good.
Entertaining.
Jamie's funny. He's got a dry sense of humor.
Putting the wraps on week 1 of the Cash In, Sports Map Radio Network. Coming up, 13 minutes from now, the first installment of the Cash In's Pages Picks. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. That's what I'm saying. Been a good show. Thank you to Jamie Eisenberg for joining us from CBSSports.com in the first hour. Scott Seidenberg in the second hour. If you missed either of those two, we have a podcast. Hey, we got a podcast. We take the best segments from this show and we lump them into a podcast. And the morning after the show, or actually right after the show's over, you can go online and just search for the Cash In podcast and you'll find it. It's on your favorite podcasting platform somewhere. So all of that to look forward to coming up tomorrow. So if you miss any of Paige's picks, if you can't stay awake, whatever it is, all you got to do, check out the podcast. I'll also put them up at our website, thecashin.com. But don't go there right now because I have to still set up the redirect link on it. Yeah, I know. I said I was going to do that 3 days ago, and I still haven't done it.
The worst.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you on that. I'm doing like 7 things right now, man. Buccaneers in Dallas is my 4th game, by the way, that I'm obviously most excited about and intrigued about, because obviously in that Sunday night game, what's going on with Tom Brady. There's no way you can convince me that leading into the first game of the season, missing as much time as he, his little sabbatical where he took off and disappeared, and Scott Seidenberg and I were just talking about that in the last segment. It's got to have an impact. It has to. Offensive line issues. No Rob Gronkowski this year. It's going to be a fascinating watch, but the Cowboys have their own issues too. Who's going to be getting the ball in the backfield? They've got a few different guys, few different options there. It's going to be a fun watch on I agree with Scott on one thing. I definitely like the under in that game. 50.5. It's way too big a number for week 1 with those two teams. Both of them dealing with some injury issues, and I definitely, if there was one pick I like for that game, it is the one that Scott said. It's the under. 50.5. Nah, that's too much. Too much. What do you think they get out of Brady? What give me a Brady stat line, Vlad. Give me a Brady stat line for week 1.
Well, since Brady's my one of my fantasy quarterbacks.
Then we can't even ask you that.
All right, listen. I think Brady's gonna kick everybody's ass. I think that he's getting sick and tired of the fact that he's got to deal with some, home issues, and it's like you said, it's finally spilling out into the public where people are talking about it, and this is the respect I give Brady. Not many of the sports pundits are really talking about his, alleged problems at home. So, because if that was somebody else or any other athlete, that would definitely be discussed. Brady's going to do Brady stuff, man. He's going to go, you know what, here's his line. 25 for 35, 313 yards.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
3 touchdowns.
So you think it goes? So you think it goes over?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
Because I don't think anybody showed anything during the preseason.
No, nobody does.
You're right. Nobody does. They all wait. Like, all of a sudden, you hear all these problems, and then when you see the regular starters, you're going to be like, oh, it seems like they fixed their issues. No, it's going to take time, continuity. We're going to see. Everybody thinks the Cowboys lost a lot of players, and I believe they're going to be a wild card team this year. So, Philly will win the division, but I do see them putting some points up against Tampa.
All right, let me give you 4 college games I like real fast. Then we'll get into Paige's picks in the next segment. Let me give 4 college games that I like for this week. The first one's it might surprise you because the line on it is massive. It's Alabama and Texas. And I think every week, when you get Alabama in these sorts of games, you're going to be fascinated to see. In some cases, it's just going to be how much are they going to win by. But in this one, it's Steve Sarkisian, who gets to go up against, his former head coach and Nick Saban. He's in the middle of a rebuilding process. The game's on the road for Alabama. And, there's a lot of buildup to this game in Texas. And I'm, for one, kind of interested. Alabama's favored by 20.5, by the way. It's got backdoor cover written all over it, doesn't it? That 20.5.
Oh, I'm taking the over.
I didn't look at the total. I just had.
It's probably going to be high, and it's going to stay high. Bama's offense is ridiculous.
It is interesting though when you've got Alabama, when you've got Texas sitting there, 3 former Alabama assistants and 3 Alabama transfers. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I hope it's a competitive game. Now I hate the idea, of an Alabama team just coasting through and 7 or 8 games that are basically uncontested because they're so damn good. I like to see the top teams get tested, and I know it hurts for the rankings and all that stuff, but I like to see Alabama get tested. I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I'll give you another one. Number 24, Tennessee, and number 17, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is an underdog. Love home. You know me. I love my home dogs. Tennessee's favored by 6.5. So Tennessee secondary. Okay. Tennessee secondary is pretty strong, but you know the former USC quarterback, that kid Kadon Slovis. You know what he did last week, obviously, in against West Virginia. So be fun.
Right.
Be a
you
good
don't
game.
think there's going to be a
letdown?
A little emotional letdown.
It could go both ways. It could go. That stuff like that could go both ways, though. Pitt figures out, oh my God, we're better than we actually thought we were. And now all of a sudden you start to sniff a little bit of success. I don't know. Be a fun game. I think it'll be close. It's a touchdown game either way. I think that game's on 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Number 20, Kentucky, and number 12, of course, Florida, now the darlings of college football because of their win over Utah last week. 29-26 last week, that last-minute interception in that game, and Southeast Conference opener for both of these teams. Florida favored by 5.5, and you'd be surprised to know. If I told you 10 years ago, Kentucky and Florida would have split their last 4 games, you would have probably had me urinating into a cup. Gators had won 34 in a row at one point in this series. Now they've split the last 4, so should be a fun game. Last one, USC and Stanford. I mean, whenever you get those two together, you're gonna have a fun game.
No, you know what to do. Take Stanford.
USC's favored by 9.5.
Take Stanford.
9.5 is a lot.
Take Stanford.
I used to drive by that stadium every day. Oh no, not Stanford. Never mind. I used to drive by Cal every day.
Yeah.
I've been to Stanford though, but I've been to Stanford Stadium. I saw Notre Dame play there once. I saw Notre Dame at Stanford Stadium back in 2011. Yeah. It was fun.
The reason why I say take Stanford, Jason, is because they always figure out a way to upset
every time
USC.
Yes,
every time early in the season. It's always their first Pac-12 games or Pac-10 or Pac-8, whatever number of teams were in that conference. And they would always that would always be that one hiccup to spoil a championship season for USC.
That game's on ABC. That game on ABC, 4:30 p.m. On Saturday. We're back with Paige's picks and more on the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network. Sorry, we were up against it.
No. I don't know if you can this weekend figure out a way for programming to come back because I heard the music. Listen to the show was different than being on the show.
Yeah, because you could hear all the elements that I'm hearing.
I heard the music and all of that. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's music.
Yeah, it's an actual radio show.
It's but it's actual there's music going out to break.
Yes.
And
I know. Trust me, it's something I want to try and figure out. But it's just like I said, unless I do this.
Free quote. See y'all later.
Austin hears that coming back to him and probably is driving him crazy.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. Maybe. I mean, Austin, let me ask you something. Is this so mind-blowingly bad that if I just put this on like this, as we're going out to breaks and stuff, would it be that terrible? Like, it doesn't go out over the air sounding like that, right?
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't.
It just makes it difficult for you to listen to for a few seconds, right?
Yeah, but it's slow enough to where it might be noticeable the first couple of times, but then after a while I'll tune it out.
Yeah, because maybe that's what I'll do. Because the problem is Vlad can't hear any of the elements, and I don't really have a way to feed the elements to him. So I'm trying to. I got to try and figure out some temporary solution while before, eventually he and I are going to be in the same studio in the same place, and it won't matter. But I don't want him like talking right up through the music because he can't hear it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll throw to it. You'll hear me say it's time for, I'll say, how should I throw to it? How do I want to do it? I'll say it's time for my favorite part of the show, and then you can go, and then you can play it. Okay?
Well, it's your favorite part of Friday's show.
Yeah.
Can't wait to take a shower. Man.
We decided it's time to put a different kind of power tool in your hands. Store mode in the Home Depot
Yeah,
app
good
gives you
stuff.
in-store
Always
tools.
love talking football on a Friday going into the NFL season. It's it's that time of the year, man. It's all the best. This is what we we grind all year long through the dog days of the baseball season. We grind it out all year long through NBA and hockey and all this stuff, and now we're here. It's football season. We're ready to go. We're ready to fire it up for Sunday. We've already had a good week of college football and a couple upsets, and here we are, man. Ready for the start of football season. I'm pumped for fantasy too. I have to say, here's the thing that people have to understand. When I got let go from NBC Sports Radio back in 2016, and honestly, I stepped away from sports, and I don't mean stepped away from it in terms of I didn't watch it. Of course, I still watched it, but you don't watch sports the same way when you're hosting a show every day as you do when you're not. There's a difference when on a Friday night, instead of going to see a movie premiere or something, you're watching a game because you have to, because you're going to have to talk about it. And it's not fun watching games on a DVR because you already know what the end result is. It's just different when you're not hosting shows every day. So now I'm back into this groove of watching sports every day and every night and preparing for the show. And now I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to get the Red Zone channel or if I'm going to get the NFL Sunday package. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. But it's fun. It's fun getting back into doing this every day because I was just kind of doing it on the fringes for the last several years, and I decided, we're gonna do it every day again. So this is kind of cool. And talking to people and working with Vlad again after we worked together for a few years. I'm not gonna lie, it's been an exhausting week because I went from not hosting at all to hosting 5 days a week, 3 hours a day again. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm ready for the weekend. But I'm ready for a weekend of watching a lot of games and talking about it all with you back here on Monday. We're with you Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern here on Sports Map Radio, the Sports Map Radio app. You can hit me up on Twitter anytime at the back page as well. So, without any further delay, on Fridays, it is my very favorite part of the show.
And presents Paige's Picks.
Yes. Let's do it. Crank it up, baby. I want to hear the music. Good stuff. Yeah, come on. Give me that NFL. I want to feel it. The football season is here. Paige's Picks, the Week 1 edition. Again, the disclaimer. You take my picks at your own peril. I am not a handicapping expert. I'm simply somebody who follows the games, watches the games. I talk about sports for a living, but it doesn't mean I'm making wagers for a living. I'm not a professional gambler. Just telling you what I think. Game number 1. You heard us talking about it a little bit in the last hour with Scott Seidenberg. I asked him about it because I was hoping he'd validate my opinion on it. He didn't. The Titans, minus 5.5 at home against the Giants. Look, the Giants just aren't good. And there isn't anything that I've seen in the preseason that changed my mind on that. I don't know how the Titans, and I get the fact that they've had some injury issues, but I mean, the Titans are a better team at so many positions. Home opener. If there's one team in the league I would not expect a home opener letdown from, it's the Titans with Mike Vrabel. As we talked about earlier in the week, the Giants may get better later on. We talked about with Matt Verderam from Fansided. You know, you might see some gradual improvement as the season goes along. But it's going to be a while before the Giants are really good again. Take the Titans minus the 5.5. Game number 2, Vikings and the Packers. Now, I am not a Kirk Cousins fan, and this is how you know I'm not betting with my heart. I am not a Kirk Cousins fan, but I'm also not really an Aaron Rodgers fan. Sorry to our friends listening on WNFL in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Not helping Vlad's chances of getting those tickets to the Packers-Jets game he's looking for.
October 16th.
Look, no Alan Lazard. It's already a core. It's already a receiving core that I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers, in his heart of hearts, actually has confidence in. Vikings home, and anybody who knows anything about me knows I love home dogs. Love me some home dogs. And the Vikings are just that. Plus 1.5 at home. Basically a pick'em game. Interesting. Scott said he thinks the Vikings are going to win that division.
Dude, a lot of people on the Vikings bandwagon.
Yeah, they are.
Some people have them going to the NFC Championship game.
Yes. I saw some of that this week in looking at the predictions that were out there.
And I don't see it.
I don't either.
Because we both don't believe in Kirk Cousins, but
it's the conference.
Kirk Cousins.
It's the conference too.
But yeah, the NFL conference the NFC conference it's not as strong and competitive as the AFC.
So the Vikings plus 1.5 at home against the Packers. We saw what happened with the Packers last year in week 1. They got destroyed on the road in Jacksonville against the Saints. I don't think they get destroyed, but I think they lose. Take the Vikings, 1.5. And if it goes down to 1, make sure to buy that point. You just never know. Bears plus 6.5, entertaining the 49ers. I'm going with the Bears. And this might be a surprise to some, but I think the loss of George Kittle, I think the way this preseason ended for Trey Lance, I don't like the vibe around the 49ers right now. I just don't. And again, teams don't know they suck in week 1. And while I don't think the Bears are that good, home dog, week 1, new regime, guys play above their heads, little over their levels. I'll take the Bears. Plus 6.5 at home. That's a lot of points for a home dog. If it gets up to 7, I'd like it even more, but I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I think it's going to be close. A lot closer than most people believe. Game number 4, the Sunday night game. This isn't me hating on Tom Brady, because anybody who knows me knows I'm not high on the Cowboys either. But it's another home dog. Dallas plus 2.5 at home against the Buccaneers. I think it winds up being a lower scoring game than the odds makers have predicted it to be. I agree with Scott Seidenberg on that, who joined us in the last hour. I think the Cowboys, look, every year this team's got something to prove. They're hearing all the talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Dak Prescott, full year now off of that bad injury. I'll take Dallas at home plus the 2.5. I think it's such a crapshoot in what you get out of week one with Brady. I really do. I'll take Dallas plus the 2.5. So I got the Titans minus 5.5 at home against the Giants. I got the Vikings plus 1.5 at home against the Packers. Yes, there is a theme of home teams here. Bears plus 6.5 at home against the 49ers. And the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Getting 2.5 at home against the Buccaneers. Page's picks week one of this National Football League season. You got a pick you like? You can let me know. Hit us up, 800-224-2004 in the remaining minutes of the show, 800-224-2004. You can hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. On Twitter at The Back Page. How do you think I'm going to go in those picks, Vlad?
I like the Vikings.
Yeah.
I don't like the Bears pick at all. If there was a pick I would tell you to take, it would be the under and the total for that game. That's probably the best bet. I think the Niners win this game and cover. I don't think the Bears even. I'll be shocked if the Bears score more than 10 points or 13 points in that game.
Well, if you're dealing with a short enough field, I think they're going to be able to get a short field. No pun intended, by the way. Because I'm not feeling all that confident about Trey Lance. Just not. But 40, I do like the under. I think that is a good pick. I do like that pick. I suppose I could have gone that way. What else? Bucks? Buccaneers? Cowboys? What do you think?
I like the Bucks, man. I like the Bucks, man. I think this is Brady's going out this year. He's going out with a bang. If I got to deal with all that drama, I got to come back home to that Tampa mansion and see that beautiful Brazilian wife of mine, but hear that voice of hers at the same time. Yeah, I'm going out, man. Going out with a bang.
Tell you, everybody's high on Trevor Lawrence. I didn't touch that game, but I didn't put it in my 4 games to watch. But I am fascinated to see the evolution with Doug Peterson of Trevor Lawrence. I really am. I mean, there are people that are so high on the future of Jacksonville. I mean, if you heard Matt, was it Matt Verderame yesterday? Yeah. Was it Matt that we had on? Yeah. Who was saying he thought Jacksonville could make the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Yeah. I know. There's a lot of optimism around that Jacksonville organization. Now you get Travis Etienne back. You know, he'll be healthy. And they went and spent some money. So
they spent crazy money.
They did. Spent like drunken sailors.
It's all their fault for the wide receiver crazy madness that happened.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they believed in Christian Kirk more than Christian Kirk believed in himself.
It's a good, interesting question. What player do you think has the most pressure week one?
Oh, easy.
Who are you going to say?
Baker.
Really?
It's between Baker and Tua.
See, I think Trey Lance does too, though.
No. Niners are going to be all right.
I do.
Niners are going to be all right, man. They'll get there. They'll figure it out. If there's one thing I know about the Niners, every season they start off slow and then figure it out towards the end of the season, and they become the team you don't want to deal with in the playoffs. But you're talking about Baker now. He beat Sam Darnold out for the quarterback competition in Carolina. He's going against his former team. Yeah, there's pressure. And Tua's going against New England. And you saw what Buffalo did. And if everybody who has a lot of high expectations on Miami, if Tua becomes the quarterback they believe he can, yeah, he's got to perform on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything invalid about what you're saying about this. But don't sleep on that Trey Lance situation, man. I know you think they're gonna be able to put it together around him, but so everybody always thinks, and I know this is so cliche, but everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side. I mean, go and look at the and look, this goes back to what we were talking about with the whole Lamar Jackson thing. Some guys are great regular season quarterbacks and find ways to win games, and it isn't pretty and all that stuff. And some guys aren't. And Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those guys that won a lot of football games as a starter and finds himself on the bench. And, everybody thinks that next new shiny toy is always going to be a great thing, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you think it's going to. And that's why I think there's so many great storylines. There really is. There's so many great storylines entering week 1. We'll be able to talk about them all. We'll have plenty of overreactions on Monday, I'm sure. All right, we'll come back. Vlad and I will wrap things up as we continue in this first week of the Cash-In. Thanks for being with us all week long on the Sports Map Radio Network. Oh, boy.
Felt good today?
Yeah, see, what I was saying, and that's nice job, Austin. I like it.
Want to win? You've come to the right place. Now, more of the Cash-In with Jason Page.
Excellent. Good stuff. Good music to finish the show with. A little closing time. I like it. Again, thank you for listening all week long. If you're not following us on Twitter, hit me up at the back page anytime you want, at the back page. Vlad, somebody asked me the other day, what's Vlad? I want to tweet at Vlad. What's his? I'm like, why do you want to tweet at Vlad? Who cares what Vlad thinks?
Because Vlad is
God. What's your Twitter again? 2087?
How dare you?
What is it?
It's Vlad 2078.
All right, I was close.
No, you
I was off by one number.
No, you just lessened my year in 9 years. You just made me 9 years younger.
2078. All right, fair enough. So if you're looking for Vlad on Twitter, at Vlad2078. And again, if you're looking for me, at the back page, make sure to hit me up there. Been a fun week, man. Been a fun week.
Yeah,
Enjoy. What's the weather supposed to be like in Iowa this weekend?
Well, in where we are, it's 68 degrees, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. I've been dealing with that South Florida weather. Oof, 90 degree weather, 90% humidity.
All right. Enjoy it out there, man.
I will, man.
Safe travels back. When do you get back?
I get back Monday. So
all right.
For the second week, we'll be back. And
10 seconds.
Good stuff. That's going to do it for us. For executive producer Vlad, producer Austin in Houston, I'm Jason Page. Thanks for listening to the Cash In on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Yes.
You were able to hear that at the end?
Yes, I was.
Cool. Austin, nice work, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
With Jeff Michael.
Albert Pujols is on a tear. He's got 6 home runs.
Austin, I'm disconnecting. We'll talk to you next week. Oh, Austin, I should tell you what for the podcast.
Yeah.
Seidenberg. The